You're in the Business Insurance Zone with me, Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to Backroom Technician. This week on The Biz, the Sales Support Services Series. And on today's show, RMDs and 72 Ts with special guest Michael Prestwich, creator and distributor of Imagisoft.
When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.
Well, welcome everyone to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm your host, Steve Savant, and we're broadcasting to a nationwide audience of financial advisors right here in Fountain Hills, Arizona, home of America's largest fountain, and day 3 with the creator of Imagisoft, Michael Prestwich. Hey, Michael.
Thanks, Steve.
Welcome to the show. And hey, day 3, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back.
I'm glad you're back. And I have to say, if you missed Tuesday's show, well, I want you to watch all our series, of course. But Tuesday's show was hot. We did stretch IRAs and generational planning. I think that was so unique in the way we attacked it. And on top of it, software sales system that actually does what we're talking about. I think you're going to be really enthused about yesterday's show. But today we're going to be talking about 72T, maybe a little bit about 72Q and RMDs, because we've been talking about RMDs and how to play with this. When we're looking at RMDs and 72T, it seems like I always thought, well, isn't 72T a age 55 issue? And isn't 72 and isn't RMDs a 70 and a half? It seems like it shouldn't mix. Talk about it. Why does this work?
Well, I think there's some people have a lot of money and they want to retire early, and that's where the 72T comes in. Is that as long as they take money over their lifetime, something that'll last, then the government will let you beat that age 59 and a half issue. So you can do it earlier. I've seen it as early as 45 where people have a lot of money. But
for 72T?
Yeah.
I thought it was a 55 and it has to be 55. I thought that was the demarcation age.
Well, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, here's my thing. I'm thinking about if I'm doing a 72T because I have all this money. How can I go ahead and take that money, and it's amortized, I believe, at the IRS's mortality tables, right? They're not using anything we're using in the industry. Is that correct?
Well, it's actually the same mortality table as your RMD. So there's that mortality table that you can use, and there's several different formulas. Some are lifetime formulas, some are just like an RMD, but they almost never use those. They use the amortization like you're talking about with an interest rate based on the federal midterm rate, which last month was 1%. So it's not as big as it once was.
So do you think if I have my money at 55, is it cheaper from a demand point of view? When I look at my amortized 72T number, is that going to be way lower than the actual RMD if I wait that long? My mind says the longer I hold it, my RMD is going to be a problem. If I have real money and I want to unload this at 55, that might be a really good tactic to say, man, I'm going to be stuck doing this later on. Maybe I should start feathering this out or taking distributions now because it's over my lifetime. I might get a better deal from a tax point of view, especially.
Yeah, well, there's different ways to do it, but one is you can take your regular mortality, basically your RMD money out, and it's very, very small, but then you're not locked in. But once you lock into a lifetime amount, then you have a lot less flexibility.
Okay, so what would be the thrill for a client? And like you said, one of the profile would be, hey, they have a lot of money. They want to start taking it out now. They want to retire early. They could go 72T. Now, is that the non-qualified version of this?
No, that's the qualified version of it.
All right, so then 72Q is?
That's your non-qualified thing with an annuity, typically.
All right, so when we're looking at both of those tactics, we can look at qualified and non-qualified monies. We can begin taking money out earlier than 59 and a half, that's what I'm hearing. And then we're stretching that, or we're actually making those payments if we take it by life. Now, is that the only alternative the IRS has given us? You're going to take it out at 55, and they're going to figure out how long at 1%, and that's what that number is going to be.
Right.
And is that for life? That's what they're figuring out.
They're figuring it is, but I think at age 59 and a half, I would talk to your accountant about this. Then you can start making some adjustments to it.
So it's not locked for that first, I mean, it is for the first 5 years, but maybe at 59
For 5 years, it's definitely locked in.
Okay. And then there could be some modifications later. Now I'm thinking, the reason I bring this up is because if I'm looking at lifetime income, and I'm thinking about rolling. I wonder what the number would be, what the IRS said that number would be, and what my annuity, if I changed it over to an immediate annuity with mortality credits at that age, I'd like to know what that number would be. I think there's probably an arbitrage between what the insurance carriers snap a timeline of life expectancy and what the IRS, which I would guess would be a bit archaic.
Well,
I mean, I don't know, but my mind just discussion point.
Since it's that same table, and it's unisex. I think, and if you're male, definitely you can beat a unisex table with them being male. So I think you just have to shop both ways.
I think now when you use your software to measure this, how does that complement this sale? I mean, this is great thinking here. I like the idea of the tactic. Now I want to use your software to display this. Walk me through it.
Well, what you do is you show them the 72T, and here's the different options you have, and there's about 5 of them, and you can circle this one and say, this is the one that I want. And then let's look at a competing idea, because, and that would be a separate piece of paper, but you say, this life insurance company here, because you're whatever, and some of them will do medical underwriting, and so maybe you're overweight, maybe you've got diabetes or something like that. They'll give you a much better rate. The IRS doesn't care as long as it's over your life expectancy.
So are you talking about medically underwritten like annuities then?
Right.
Okay, let's walk by that, because if I'm talking about medical underwritten annuities, and I have a timeline that's short because I have a mortality disease or an impairment or a substandard rating because of that, I actually should be able to, if my timeline is shorter, my benefit should be
bigger,
larger.
larger.
Well, that makes total sense to me. So what your software does, it looks at those 5 equations, and then we add separate from that what we're talking about now.
Exactly.
When we go back from the break, we're going to talk about this, and I really want to talk about this in regards to RMDs and 72Ts. We're here with Michael Prestwich, and remember, don't forget to enroll in IULUniversity.com for the best training and education and sales support when it comes to life insurance for retirement income.
You're listening to the insurance industry's #1 resource for products, planning ideas, carrier information, and interviews you can use. When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.
Did you know the average 401k runs out of money just 7 to 8 years into retirement? Time Magazine, the Wall Street Journal, and many other publications have warned of the difficulty of saving with a 401k. But what if there was a way to create tax-free lifetime retirement income with no stock market risk? Good news, there is.
You know, living in fear of the next market dive is not the way I want to live my life.
Why would I go out there and take on risk when I don't need to?
I have a lot less stress knowing I can't lose any more of my retirement savings in the stock market.
Call now to receive your free, no-obligation analysis of what this retirement vehicle could do for you, a comparison to your current retirement plan, and a free video that explains this exciting opportunity. Start planning a retirement you can enjoy instead of worrying about future tax increases and stock market losses. Creating income that will last your entire life is the most important thing you'll ever do. Take control of your future. Call now for your free analysis, comparison, and video.
Well, welcome back to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm Steve Savant with Michael Prestwich. And remember, you can order today's materials at thebiz.tv. And while you're out there, click on the Backroom Technician icon for a 30-day free trial offer and access to the best needs analysis and client education material that address almost every financial planning scenario. And don't forget, Michael is giving away a 7-day free trial. You can go out to a Magisoft site. It's right there on the lower third of our script here. And I just want you to try 7-day free trial. We're looking at things right now, the IRS's 5 option issues. And remember, even though we are talking about things that have sometimes to do with tax, always consult your tax advisor or legal counsel, and as well as your broker-dealer or compliance officer if you're FINRA licensed before moving forward with anything here on our show. The IRS is going to lay out these 5, they have their 5 options. We're going to be able to calculate those on this software, and it'll show us, here are your options. And I'm assuming that joint is not a good option.
Joint is not a good option if you want the most money up front.
Right. So, but it's also going to do they're going to amortize on their mortality tables, which I'm suspicious are way too, they're probably not up to date.
Well, all IRS tables are older and they're unisex.
Right. So I think this is a major play for males. I mean, that's what you're saying.
For sure.
All right, so I have that now, and I input all this information. It tells me, it spits out the 5 different alternatives and options. And now after that, I'm looking for the mortality payment. What's that going to be? And now I have that in my hand. What do I do to maximize this? Because I've looked at my 72T. I'm going to do it like you've suggested. I've looked at my options. I've chose the best monetary option. Am I still keeping this? Am I still keeping the same qualified plan? Am I still going to do the 401k, or am I going to roll it before I do this?
I think you're going to need to roll it because you want to peel that money off and make it separate. So if you don't want all of your qualified money, but you want some of it, roll it that way. And then the insurance company, the nice thing about them is they can probably beat 1% interest.
Oh yeah.
And they can give you, if they do medical underwriting, which depends on your health.
Right.
But if your health is poor, let's say you're a smoker, let's say you've got a belly. I mean, you should do a medically underwritten plan. If not, then go with a company that is really good with interest rates there and do a lifetime annuity with them.
Or can I get a company that does great interest rates and they have medically underwrite? That would be nirvana.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I love the idea of thinking about always checking in different dimension. We're actually bringing in another dimension in just in this little area of 72T, which we're saying, hey, look, if you have medical issues, you may want to underwrite this. If it's mortality driven, you may actually get a higher benefit for that. Your mortality credits will be higher because of your shorter timeline. That could be a big play. Okay, now I roll over my 401k into my individual IRA, so I got control of it.
Right.
Now, am I still keeping the same asset allocation model that I have in, or do you see a lot of people know they're going to roll it over to an annuity just because maybe as one of the issues we just talked about, medically underwritten annuities?
Right, but let's say you're in good health and you want your money early and you keep a good aggressive allocation model because you feel like you're going to live a long time. One of the dangers of the 72T is that you have to keep it. You can't even modify it for 5 years. So if the number comes out as $2,317 per month, you better darn well do that. And you better keep your original documentation. Keep our printout, but also when you look up the interest rate, the federal midterm rate, there's a print that out and put that in the person's file and make sure that you follow up that they're taking out that amount. Because if they vary, then they're going to get, they can get age 59 and a half issues. They can get the 10% penalty, they can throw out the 72T, they can end up with penalty issues plus interest. I mean, it can be ugly. You've got to work with an accountant on this.
So do you think most accountants know what we're talking about in this area?
They would probably research it and they would charge the client for that research.
I think there's a lot of people that, I mean, I always trust that the fiduciaries are pretty open to this and have an idea. But I think this law and some of the nuances of the penalty phase that could happen if this isn't taken out in the right way, or at least the prescribed number, whichever option we're choosing, we have to really just keep this in mind. And I don't know if I'm kind of suspicious if CPAs don't know this, they need to start knowing this because people are looking to them for not only tax advice on their 1040, but they're looking for them to say, hey, help me a little bit on my retirement plan. Now, when I've generated my number, I picked it out, I chose it. I already know what my 5-year, I have to do that, and it looks like I might not even look about modifying it at 59 and a half. When I look at this now, I'm going to keep my asset allocation because I want it to grow. That's, you were suggesting that, okay? All right, so it's growing. I'm still taking out that number, but whatever's left is growing. If I stay in equities, it's possible. I mean, the lost decade. Remember, the S&P went down 2001, 2, and 3, and 2008. 4 out of those 10 years. I may say, I don't know, we're talking about retirement money. I may not want to keep it in equities any longer. I don't want to take the chance of running out because that premium that I pay, I mean, it should get you there. I mean, because it's so low.
Oh, yeah.
But I guess what I'm thinking is I might want to start looking at long-term annuity plays in income plays and or annuitization plays, because that seems to be something that could fit in here really well.
It could, and it's that rule of 100. You start when you're 50%'s in the higher risk, 50% in the safety. Now you go 5 years, 55, let's rebalance, put more into annuities, and hopefully your equities keep growing. If they don't, you have a floor underneath you.
I think people are looking for that. I mean, I can just say from a boomer point of view, we're looking for a floor, we're looking for a foundation. We don't want to play around. After 2008, we're still recovering. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, or email me at steve@thebiz.tv. Well, that's the Buzz on the Biz for today. You've been in the zone, the business insurance zone.
You're listening to the insurance industry's #1 resource for products, planning ideas, carrier information, and interviews you can use. When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.